The Pixel Fold 9 Pro. Not the Pixel Fold 2, the Pixel Fold 9 Pro. This phone is something special. Google's calling it the pinnacle of mobile computing with their new Tensor G4 chip. This phone is apparently the largest display on a phone in the US and the thinnest foldable in the US. But what I really want to know is, how did they cram that much tech into this thin phone? And can I take parts away and will this still work as usual? Let's find out. That was quite the unboxing experience. This phone for a foldable is incredibly thin. I can already tell this is going to be a great video. I'm so excited to tear this down, but before I do, take a look at that display. This thing attracts fingerprints like no other, but I guess that's just one of the downsides of having a foldable. In Canada, the Pixel Fold version 1 wasn't actually released, so I never got a chance to look at it. But now that I'm looking at the Pixel Pro 9 Fold, yeah, I can see why there was so much hype. This thing is beautiful. We'll go ahead and turn this on. We just set up the Pixel Fold, and now you can take a really good look at that display. This thing lays flat, just like they promised. You can barely see the crease. Very impressive that they were able to do that. It's also very thin, I'm not gonna lie. If we put this right beside an iPhone, yeah, you can really see how thin this is, even when it's folded. But we all know that when something's thin, well, it can, oh. No, it actually holds up pretty well. That's impressive. But I know Jerry Rig is gonna double kill. What I love about this is you get basically a full-size display, so this can be used as a normal phone, and then when you need it, you can open it and you have this much bigger 8-inch screen. Google, you did a really good job, but let's see how good of a job you did on the inside. We'll go ahead and cook the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. So Jerry Rig actually tore down the last Pixel Fold and he removed one of the batteries. Mind you, both screens were broken at this point, so he couldn't test if it was actually working, but he did
feel the phone vibrate when pressing the power button after having removed the larger battery.
Meaning it was probably still on and working. I want to see if that's the case this year. We'll flip the Pixel Fold. The Pixel Fold's done cooking. Any more cooking and we'd probably melt the plastic in the display. To open this, we're gonna probably start from here because most phones open from the back. We're going to grab a suction cup. This is one of my favorites. All the links to everything I use is available on my website. If any of this interests you, you can go there and find this stuff. We'll slap the suction cup on the Google Pixel back glass, close this up, and we're also gonna need to use some alcohol and plastic prying cards. All we're gonna do is try and make a gap here, and we're just gonna pour some alcohol into the gap we've created, and then we're gonna grab our plastic prying cards and pry. This year, I'm going to actually attempt to remove the display. I'm talking about this display, so stay tuned for that. If I can remove it without breaking it, well, I'm probably the best phone repair person that's ever lived. Not actually, but it would be pretty impressive. And we can open it up. That is one half of the Pixel Fold. I actually did have to unscrew this bracket over here to disconnect this flex cable, which appears to be connected to the flash and the back microphone. We'll apply some alcohol down here to try and fully remove the back glass because it's still pretty stuck. There we go. Out of all of the Android phone manufacturers, Google makes some of the best looking internals. Their transparent mods are so beautiful. Maybe we'll try that later in a short, but for now, let's dig a little bit deeper. So right off the bat, you can see the copper from the wireless charger, and it connects via these pads, which connect to the board via these contact points. You're probably gonna be pretty surprised to hear that the Pixel 9 Pro Fold does not have a temperature sensor. Let's take a look at what it does have. So Google really loved their Torx screws, and that's mainly what this phone has. You don't really need a ton of screwdrivers for this, just a good T3 screwdriver. What we do have is the rear flash, what appears to be an ambient light sensor, and the rear microphone. Now we'll go ahead and move the back glass aside. Let's take a look at the actual Pixel Fold. So obviously we have the main board here, and a lot of people were mentioning that the back cameras make a loud rattling noise. I can confirm that that is true. It's very loud compared to other phones. That's nothing to be concerned about though, but yeah. Let's go a little bit deeper. We're going to peel up on this. And because foldable phones generate a lot of heat, we're gonna see a lot of copper in here, a lot of thermal paste. Why is the battery so small? We're just gonna unscrew every screw we can see so that we can remove anything we want. We'll hit this with an unscrew. It's crazy to think that this is only half of the phone. There's a whole other half that I haven't explored yet. And before we go any further, I want to test my battery theory. So this is obviously the smaller battery. There should be a much larger battery on the other side, but I want to see if this phone works with this battery disconnected, and then we'll try the other battery later. Let's go ahead and try it. Can open the phone. As you can see, the phone is still on. I haven't turned it off. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery from the back. This should be the battery connector down here. We'll go ahead and disconnect that. So I couldn't really believe what was happening. The phone was still on despite what I thought was the battery being disconnected. So I disconnected other things and, well, this just confused me. I now know that that was the battery I disconnected, but there's a little more to it than that. And now we're gonna head to the other side. Now this side is very risky to work from because, well, there's a display here, and as you can see, everything sits very flush. Grab our suction cup, suck on the display, and we're just gonna pull up on it. Oh, it comes up really easily. Google didn't make this challenging. I just have to be careful to not tear the flex cable wherever it is because I can't see it. Oof. I don't like those clicking sounds, but it looks like we have the second half open. Everything looks like it's still intact. That's good news. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew this bracket over here. Disconnect the display. That is the front display. This thing is crazy thin. There's nothing attached to it, no fingerprint scanner, nothing like that. It's just the display, so it's pretty easy to remove. We'll place that there. And now we have a look at this big ass battery. This thing's massive. Foldable phones are such interesting devices to tear down. I've only ever been inside Samsung phones, and I must say, this one looks so much prettier than Samsung's Z Fold. We'll disconnect both of these flex cables right over here. And since the battery is now disconnected, there's no way this is connected to the main board now. Will the phone still boot? Can you use the phone without this big ass battery? Let's find out. I'm gonna press and hold the power button. Oh! Damn, looks like you can. Let's see if it actually boots all the way. Okay. So it doesn't seem to boot past the Google logo. We're gonna remove the little battery to make sure we're disconnecting the right connector and try different combinations to see if we can get it to boot. So I did some testing, and what I found I think is actually pretty cool. So the phone is on right now. Both the big battery and the small battery are connected, and if we go ahead and open up the back, you can just disconnect this. So if I disconnect this, I'm disconnecting the big battery, and you'll be surprised to know that the phone's still on. It works. Everything's fine. It's only running off the small battery. Now if we go back, and I'm doing all this while the phone is still on. That's why this is so cool. We'll peel up on this. We're gonna reconnect the big battery, and then we're gonna disconnect the small battery. And watch this. The phone's still on. You can literally disconnect either or while the phone is on, and it stays on. It only runs off the one battery. That's pretty cool. I also wanted to see if this phone would boot with one battery disconnected, and it turns out it does. It only boots with the big battery connected and the small battery disconnected. If you try the inverse, it just doesn't boot. So I did some research on these pull tabs, and it turns out Google has this insane repair manual to fix all of their Pixel 9 lineups. Like, this thing is crazy detailed. So for this one, we just have to disconnect these flex cables once again. And now, according to Google's manual, you just kind of shimmy these tabs upward to slice the glue at the top of the battery. This is absolutely horrendous. I think they should just go back to regular pull tabs or find another method.
A few moments later.
Oh my God. That was terrible. Now we're gonna remove all of the components here, including the cameras, and then I really want to see if I can get this screen off without damaging it. I hope I can, but first we'll disconnect all the flex cables. Now we'll remove the loudspeaker. Oh, interesting. The charging port is modular, and it's also built a little different than what we're used to seeing. Usually they have the casing around the port itself and you slide that in, but this is just the USB-C pins that go into the actual housing. Now we'll unscrew the motherboard, remove all of the copper, and take a look at that. That's the G4 chip. No Google logo or anything. Interesting. We'll also remove the cameras. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras. How many cameras are too many cameras? Google doesn't care. So first things first, I think we have to remove the plastic here. I'm not just removing this for fun. I do want to get a closer look at that hinge, but I also want to see if I can remove this without breaking it. Prying up on the inner display is incredibly tedious and incredibly risky. If this thing works at all after we're done with this, well, that's a miracle in itself. You want to be extremely careful, making sure you don't push the bendy OLED too far one way or the other. After about 10 minutes of prying, well, it's starting to look like it's coming off. We'll use a spudger to slice off the leftover glue, and... oh! Holy crap, that was incredibly difficult. Now we can get a really good look at the inside and a really good look at that hinge. It's insane to me how good of a job Google did and how complex this thing really is on the inside. All in all, this phone is pretty repairable, but we know from experience that foldables come with massive price tags when it comes to replacing their screens. And that's why I'm rebuilding this phone to test out if the inner display still works. I hope it does, but I won't be surprised if it doesn't. Aw, looks like the inner display does have some lines, but the touch still works and it does still display, so I guess that's a half win in my books. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know the Pixel 9 Pro Fold didn't, but I did. Peace.